people. I cry when I see that I am burned. I leave when I see what I am to do. Cause life is all about when you're sitting there looking at me. Just take one step at a time. Cause if you jump, you will never believe the thorns of life. Am I wanting and waiting for me and you? They make it better say, I want to run away. Run away, run away, run away. Where they just go. Run away, run away, run away. Where they just go.
News, sports, entertainment, top 100 music on your Remedy Radio dial. Solutions 93.9.
Do not touch that dial.
Our government will not stand idly by and allow a few with a clear political agenda to tear this nation apart. Under the circumstances, I hereby enjoin protesters and the organizers to suspend any further protest and create room for dialogue, which I have always acceded to at the slightest opportunity. Nigeria requires all hands on deck and need us all, regardless of age, party, tribe, religion, or other divides, to work. Our government will not stand idly by and allow a few with a clear political agenda.
The president's speech. We have had the president's speech. I say, let other leaders come here. We discuss and respond appropriately. That's all. Leave the police. Let them be where they are. Today, he said we should stop protest. Today is Sunday, we are here. If we now decide to stop from Monday, that's a different thing. We cannot say we should stop today. We are not soldiers. He did not bring us here. We are protesting against his policy. You cannot say we go where we go. I would listen. He has not answered our request.
All right, studio time check 937 on 939 Solutions FM, and with those voices, we say you're welcome to the From the Daily segment on AM Update, and this is the segment where we get to take you through some major stories in some of today's national dailies. My name is AYODEJI LAFENWA, and of course, as usual, I have Comrade AYODEJI AJISOPE doing this with me live in the studio. A beautiful morning to you, Comrade.
Yes, it's a Monday, so I can say beautiful morning to you, despite or in spite of what might be out there. It's a wonderful Monday morning.
Okay, I mean, the nationwide protest started last week, and so many Nigerians were saying that the president was yet to address the nation. But eventually yesterday, the president addressed the nation. But there have been quite a number of reactions trailing the presidential speech yesterday, which virtually all the newspapers we have this morning are talking about the reactions to the nationwide broadcast by the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And this morning I've got about 5 newspapers. I've got the Nation newspaper, I've got the Nigerian Tribune, I've got the Vanguard newspaper, I've got the Guardian, and of course the Punch newspaper. Starting off with the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning, The biggest story on the front page says a national broadcast, what Tinubu should have said, Soyinka, Atiku, Falana. That story is found on page 22. And there are riders under that. President's speech fell short of addressing continuing deterioration of state seizure of protest management, Soyinka. His address failed to offer any immediate solutions to the Nigerian people, Atiku. Insensitivity to protesters' demands can only provoke continued action. Falana. Tinubu has not disappointed Nigerians, Doyin Okukpe. Moving away from that, security challenges persist because Nigeria is surrounded by francophone countries. DG Army Center. That story is found on page 8 of the Nigerian Tribune. NDLEA seizes loud shipment hidden in body compartment of 4 vehicles. Arrest 10 in Lagos, Ondo, Edo, Kogi raids. Economic loss of protests can't be estimated, Budget Minister. Ex-ADC presidential candidate Kachiko rejects protest violence against Tinubu's government. Okay, let me take one more story on the front page of... Okay, let me take 2 more now. We can't afford new electricity tariff, universities tell discourse. And the last one, why I will accept ceremonial beaded crown. Ladoja. Olubadan goes to church for Thanksgiving. That story is found on page 2 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Away from the Nigerian Tribune, let's take a look at the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Protest, Tinubu's broadcast fell short of expectations. Organizers, Atiku, Soyinka, PDP, NLC, others. And riders, protest continuing in Lagos, Osun, Kano, others. Tinubu's speech, Olo, fails to address hardship among Nigerians, Atiku. His broadcast didn't address police brutality against protesters, Soyinka. Address economic contractions, NECA task government. And another one, okay, let me see. Okay, truckers rubbish Tinubu's speech. Say, President bereft of ideas. Okay, IBB disowns post endorsing military rules, page 37. Households struggle to cope with galloping food prices, page 24 of the Vanguard newspaper. FG's reforms have not brought promised renewed hope, Catholic bishops. I tell you, the front page of the Vanguard newspaper is quite loaded this morning. Stop bloodshed. Ex-ADC presidential candidate Kachiko begs protesters. And the last one I'll be taking from the front page of the Vanguard newspaper says, hardship, protest. Some people want to blackmail me. Obi. Now moving to the Guardian newspaper, national broadcast outrage over rehash of old policies, threats, failure to soothe protesters. And that story is found on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Nationwide protest dialogue remains best option, says Diri. Protest 52 billion naira worth of looting, a setback to entrepreneurs' investment. Livestock Ministry must end open grazing conflict. Kano judiciary probes looting of court as protest continues. And the last one says poor internet service lingers as NCC denies new tariff. And let me quickly take the front page of the Nation newspaper before we go into the analysis. Okay, JAMB issues ultimatum to universities over illegal admission. Are we reforming economy? Agric others by Tinubu. Oyo Council chairman pull out of Algon. Ministers on path to boost intra-Africa trade. And another one says, Fintiri, Kachiku, Okocha, give president more time. And the last one I'll be taking on the front page of, okay, let me take 2 more. Ladoja accepts beaded crown. And the last one, protesters leave Lagos ground, desert Abuja, Benin venues. Okay, once again, Comrade AYODEJI, a beautiful morning to you.
Yeah, beautiful Monday morning. Mondays are great days. You know, you are loaded or reloaded and ready to launch.
Okay,
into the deep.
Ready to launch into the deep. Okay. Now, I'm sure you listened to the presidential speech yesterday.
That is mandatory.
Okay. And I mean, I also listened because I was actually in the studio while it was being relayed. And Nigerians have come out to react to the presidential speech. Some of such notable Nigerians are Lobel Nore, Wale Soyinka, Professor Wale Soyinka, and Atiku Abubakar. Now, let's take the statement credited to Atiku Abubakar. Firstly, his address failed to offer any immediate solutions to the Nigerian people. What should have been the what is Atiku referring to as he failed to bring immediate solution? What would have been the immediate solutions to the hardship?
Well, protesters, when they were going to start, they listed, charter of demands, they call it. So, did the president address those issues? Yes, you might say. No, you might also say. The president responds. He listed, the things the government has done, fiscal policies to move the economy forward, to restore the economy. It described the situation when it came in. 97% was being used to, and then he painted that picture. Then transition, and now, and he painted the picture of the future that he envisaged with the policy instruments, monetary and fiscal, that has been deployed. So apparently that was the president's response. But, maybe they would have expected the president to say, on your demand for reversal of subsidy, this is what we have done, kind of response like that. 1, 2, 3. Of course, I mean, he did not meet the expectations in that regard. I think he went ahead and said something to the effect that the International Criminal Court and all of that should take note of what the government is doing through the security agencies and all of that. Kongi, the Nobel laureate, also called attention to the brutality of the security agencies.
To the protesters.
To the protesters. The protesters went to a library in Kano. They stole everything else, but not one single book. Everything else in the library. not one
and
single.
they spared the books.
Not one single book was stolen. I remember in if there were demonstrations, and we came back from those demonstrations and had cause to go to the library. People were going to the library to take books. You understand? But these people went to a library, a state library, stole everything.
Probably
else.
they didn't know the treasure.
I mean, if you,
embedded in these books. They obviously didn't know.
They say if you want to deal with an African, just put anything.
Well, no, I believe now. I think that's an old adage. It's not all Africans now.
Well, not all.
Not
Certainly
all Africans.
Not. I love to read. I mean, you love to read. So, you see, I'm not disappointed. I was not disappointed by the speech of the president. You understand? What was the man going to say again? You understand? What was he going to say? He's talking about the policy instruments that they have deployed. People said the man was not talking. And the man came out and said what he had to say. After all, we had a president that never bothered to talk, And even when he talked, remember, the one they called the NSAS, the man came out and said something that was not even related to what was on ground.
One of the agitations of Nigerians is that the policies being put in place by Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration, there are quite a number of policies, but this policy
they say you should reverse soil subsidy. That one is not, that is a dead issue.
Okay, let me take, for example, now, okay, I listened to the speech as well. I remember the president saying that the things the government has done to boost agriculture by giving input to the farmers and everything. Over this last 1 year, I mean, what has been the result?
That is the big question.
He also mentioned, I quote him somewhere, he said, the economy is growing considerably. But we've had over the last 6 months of companies folding up, Nigerians finding it hard too. So, what template is the government using to judge the growth of the economy, which is not visible to Nigerians?
One thing is clear. When this administration came in, I'm not a spokesperson. I'm not speaking for this administration. I'm just saying what is out there. When this administration came in, the administration that preceded it said by end of June, fuel subsidy will end. The only error that this president committed was he opened his mouth and said fuel subsidy has ended. He didn't need to say that. Look, during Buhari's era, Shebi we just woke up one day. They didn't tell nobody. We just got to the fuel pumps. Then PMS moved from 80-something naira to 145. Did they tell anybody? They didn't tell anybody. Look, it was the media who would have been shouting, there's no provision for subsidy by the end of June. There's no provision. Will the subsidy be gone? The man didn't need to do all the drama he did. You understand? Just on the 1st of July, just instruct them. Subsidy is gone. No, you don't need all the drama. And then people are too shocked when the PMS moved from 85 naira to 145. Was there any protest? There was no protest. Was there any protest? People were just too shocked and they just quietly moved on. Even when NLC called a strike, after 1 week, NLC is by itself, without any prompting, issued a statement and said, because of appeals by 1 million Nigerians, they have called off the strike. So, the man, that was an error. That was a grave error of judgment. You don't need that drama. There was no provision for fuel subsidy in the second half of the year, starting from July. May 29, you came into office. Just 1 month, just quietly. It will have been the media that will have been shouting, there's no provision of what's going to happen, and all of that. The man did what he didn't need to do. And then he tried to stand a stool on 2 legs. You said you had removed subsidy. You said you had merged the 2 windows of FX. You didn't provide succor. Who does that? And he said it was seized by courage.
Let's address this. The economy is growing considerably.
Considerably. Let me tell you, they are now using one instrument, money, cash, liquidity, to try to reflate the economy. You understand? A lot of money is being pumped. That, of course, there's liquidity because of the devaluation of the naira. Money had been borrowed against our crude oil production by the preceding administration. So they needed cash. So they have cash now. And they're trying to use the cash to reflate the economy. Money coming to the states has increased. Probably doubled in some places. Local government clearly has gone up seriously. The Supreme Court judgment wants to get money to the locals, you understand? So that the impact will be felt at the grassroots, like in the days of yore. Money has been, fiscal policies. Industries, certain people industries get 1 billion and all of that. But the question the protesters and leaders of those protests should be asking is that, okay, all these monies that you are using to reflate the economy, who is getting what? Get the details.
That is the question they are asking.
No. Did they ask that? They didn't ask that. They just said reverse this, reverse that. Ask specific questions. Who is getting what? 75 billion for this, 100 billion for that, 20 billion for small.
And the money is not trickling down to where
the protesters should ask tell us who is getting what, who has gotten what, and then go and get those people who got it. What are you doing with the money that you are getting? That is what, look, all these, we should be specific, not just going up and down. Our case, Nigeria's case, is beyond the president coming and say, we have given 100 CNG buses, we are doing this, we are doing that. People should scrutinize. We are not subjecting government to scrutiny. We are not subjecting them. Look, I went back to read something about the audit report of 2022. The Auditor General cited the NSITF, National Social Security, or what is the NSITF, cited them. One instance, 17 billion. NSITF MD came to the Senate and said termites have eaten the vouchers. One transaction. That's one transaction. There are other transactions of 5 billion, 3 billion.
We've had cases of
And the
snakes swallowing money before. It's not a new thing, actually.
And the National Assembly has oversight function empowered by the Constitution. You appropriate money, and then you oversight the spending of those. The Auditor General cited NITF since 2022. They said termites had eaten
The invoice.
the voucher.
The voucher.
And the financial regulation, that particular section says no monies must be issued out, paid out without vouchers backing it up. Nothing. We are not scrutinizing. We are not challenging our leaders. We are just doing general talk.
Okay, now with the presidential address, now do you feel that the protester, the convener of the protest, will be able to achieve anything? Will this protest
He said they should come
reach?
for dialogue. He said it's always available. He's in fact said that at the slightest opportunity, he has embraced dialogue. So he has asked them to come on dialogue.
Okay, let's move away from the protest.
And he actually asked them to stop it, to stop the protest.
Yeah, he
said so.
did.
Commander-in-Chief
Of the armed forces. Okay, let's move away from the protest story now. We mentioned something about the local government autonomy, and something interesting just came up in Oyo State now. Oyo State local government chairman just pulled out of the Association of Local Government of Nigeria, ALGON. And there are speculations that is this not... they say this is as a result of the Supreme Court judgment. Now, one begin to ask, what is the motive behind this move by the local government chairman in Oyo State?
ALGON is an association, and the Constitution guarantees freedom of association. So if Oyo State ALGON says they don't want to be part of the national ALGON, freedom of association, they say it's because of the Supreme Court judgment. What has the how will this affect the Supreme Court judgment? The Supreme Court judgment regarding the disbursement of funds is tantamount, is a judicial pronouncement, and that is law. You understand? Law. So how will it affect it?
I remember Governor Seyi Makinde saying it on at the inauguration of a committee to review the outcome of the Supreme Court judgment, saying that I remember him saying we had the clip on this program that time that he said the federal government cannot tell Oyo State what to do. That they would rather look for a means, a workable method that is workable for the state. So do we say this is part of the workable method that Oyo State wants to adopt in order to... But some people are speculating that is this not a way of maneuvering their way over the Supreme Court judgment?
How do you maneuver? The law.
That's speculations of some people.
The pronouncement of the Supreme Court.
Because why will the local government chairman pull out?
Association of
Why
local
now?
government.
Why now?
Freedom of association is guaranteed. They don't want to associate with ALGON anymore. They want to be Oyo State local government. Freedom of association. But the question for me is, how does that affect the Supreme Court judgment, which is tantamount to law? Now, they say the federal government cannot dictate. Is it the federal government that gave the judicial pronouncement? You see, people are confused. It is products of confusion or a Supreme Court. There is the court, the arbiter. There are the executive branch, then the legislative branch. The one branch of government made a pronouncement, and the second tier is saying federal government cannot dictate. What is the meaning of that? Is it the federal government dictating?
No, it's saying you can't tell us what to do.
Well, everybody has his own role. The executive, incidentally, is to implement the laws of the land. So, when the law says, give money to local government, pay it into their account. So, will the executive branch that is constitutionally mandated to execute and implement laws say, no, we're not going to implement laws? That itself is lawlessness. That is executive rascality and lawlessness. It's lawlessness. So, you see, our public office holders, they should be mindful that is why they are so-called public office. These things are offices held in trust for the people.
But this is not the first. Even the federal government has flouted the rule of the Supreme Court before in this country, which we all know.
Well, the Supreme Court, I remember one particular instance, the issue of Naira redesign. The Supreme Court came down hard on the executive branch of government regarding that. Of course, in fact, they did not implement fully in the first instance. They just did some modification and modulation to the Supreme Court order. But in this regard, what would the states do? You see, let me make it abundantly clear here. The 1979 Constitution made the local government the third tier of government. This thing started in 1976. Before 1976, everybody was operating their own local government as it suited their own area, geopolitical zone or regions as they were. But the 1976 local government reform made everything uniform nationwide. And I think 1989, they even, that was the Babangida era, they even adopted the presidential system for the local government. The same thing that is in the presidential federal level, state level, is what is available in the local government. The local government chairman, the vice chairman, just like the governor, the deputy. They have a parliament. They have, and they even have their own courts. Those, the judiciary, they have it at the local level. You have a house leader. You have the councillors are constitute the parliament. They have leader, they have speaker. Just like, so I remember when the governor ran for re-election, he was asked, and I heard somebody play it. He said, what is your opinion about local government? During the election, local government autonomy became an issue in Oyo State. And he said, and I quote, the governor said, 3 people cannot federate. But you see, people are using the United States example as the classic example. Federations are modeled to suit specifics. The Swiss Federation does not run like that. You understand? So it is actually federal and local, no state. You understand? So this thing is in the Constitution.
But it is believed in some quarters that there can never be full autonomy for local government as long as the sitting governors have a considerable amount of influence on who becomes the local government chairman, as it's been played out.
It says financial autonomy.
Yeah, financial autonomy. That's on paper.
The Constitution still provides that local government shall be run by democratically elected officials and the laws that will govern the local government shall be made, prescribed by the state.
Okay.
By the state through the state assembly.
Let me paint the picture now. You are the sitting governor. I was aspiring to be the local government chairman, and I sought your approval or your influence, and you, in one way or the other, made it possible for me to become the local government chairman. Now, fine, the money is coming into my account as the local government account. Yeah. But that doesn't rule out the fact that you, as my benefactor, you still have an influence on whatever comes into that account.
So what will I do? I will funnel the money to the state account.
That's what I'm saying.
Don't forget that local government chairmen do not have immunity. They should remember that. They don't have immunity. So I told someone, I said, look, this delay that the federal government is doing, it will serve 2 purposes. For the state governments to adjust.
Okay.
Readjust from the shock.
So you strongly believe that this full financial autonomy will be effective as it is being thought by the federal government?
I want to think of the effectiveness of it in the benefits of it. That is for me the effectiveness.
And that's what I'm asking you. You believe that this will be that effective and tilt towards your belief?
There will be challenges. And the governor of Oyo State talked about it. For instance, in the payment of teachers.
Primary school teachers? Or?
Yes. Because some local governments have higher number of teachers because some people will not accept postings, or they even have higher number of schools, higher concentration of schools. So they may not have enough resources to pay. But apart from that, they have other resources now. You see, this financial autonomy for local government should go beyond federal allocation. the law also states that the state should give a certain percentage of their IGR to local government. State government should stop controlling motor parks. What about all the you see, I go out deliberately to do some of these things. I asked and I took photographs. Tricycle told me that they pay officially 400 naira per day on 3 receipts. I have the photographs. I took the photo. I collected the receipts and took the photographs. But he told me that unofficially, every day they do not pay less than 1,500. Now, where does that money go? I'm sure Okadas don't pay that much. Okadas will escape.
So if this autonomy comes in full effect, all this money being accrued from the parks, will they be going to the purses of, will still they be going to the purses of the state government or the local government?
The local government, the states have hijacked these things now. They are building motor parks. They are even building markets. It is only the rates, the small rates that they are collecting. But let them do the arithmetic of how much is being made every day in this Ibadan. No, don't even talk about other places. In this Ibadan, 11 local governments, sprawling city that we have, how much is being made, collected?
On a daily basis.
Yes. How much is being remitted? How much is accounted for? That one alone, 11 local governments. For God's sake. Look, and then it should not stop there. I was reading somewhere yesterday, a senator representing Oyo State was thanking federal government for approval of reconstruction and rehabilitation of some roads. And I was saying to myself, what is the business of federal government in this? But don't forget, our history is that of military governance. And those military governors that were posted like they were on military posting, they did not have tenure. We have seen in Western states, one governor spent 30 days. Akin Adu spent only 30 days. Now you come, and you can't make any plans because you have no tenure. So you rule day by day. That is still the angle. So everybody looked up to the president. It is what the president tells the governors. That's no longer the case. We should recalibrate our brains and look towards the governors. The governors are the enemies of the people. They are the enemies of the people. They are the ones that have captured and virtually paralyzed the local governments. All these years, they are the enemies of the people. People should stop looking towards Abuja. Minister of Information said they gave them 570 billion grant. And some just started paying 30,000 during Salah.
Interesting. Okay, since we are still in Oyo State, let's talk about the Olubadan chieftaincy issue, which seemed to have taken a new twist this morning. And it actually came up yesterday, but all the papers have it this morning. Why I will accept ceremonial beaded crown, Ladoja. Do we see this putting to rest the controversies surrounding the newly amended Oyo State chieftaincy law?
Yeah, I deliberately and intentionally listened to that conversation that distinguished Senator Rashidi Adewale, the one they call
Wolusha.
I listened. You see, sometimes the things, you see, when they say in communication, they say the non-verbal communication actually constitutes 85% of communication. The verbal communication consists only of 50%. So I tried to listen to what he did not say, or the things that were implied, even in the things. You know, he's not a man of many words.
He's a man of very few words. He's a man of very, very few words.
I doff my heart for the man's sagacity. He maneuvered so cleverly, and he's even been applauded. The man was boxed into a corner. He was boxed into a corner legally, and he acknowledged it. There was a committee to review You understand? The Chief Chancellor. What the government just did was to send a bill to the State Assembly,
Which was signed.
which was appropriately,
Appropriate, yeah.
I mean, well, with a little amendment, addition, to say that it is the highest ranking chief wearing a beaded crown. You understand?
Highest ranking chief.
High chief wearing with beaded crown.
Beaded crown.
That was the
only amended.
no.
Was that the only amended section?
But that was that addition to it, which was to ensnare Senator Ladoja, and the man bided his time, and he says he's taking the crown now, and he's taking it on the condition that he's under pressure from the public and the people of Ibadan, both indigenous and residents. So what would have been, he wouldn't have been Ibadan if he did not take the crown. But now he says yes, and I quote him verbatim. He said, "Agbade," meaning we. And Yoruba say Nike Jawade. But in this circumstance, he said we. Because he have been asked by the people. So what he's doing is not, that even says, okay, I am succumbing to the will of the people. You understand? That was a master stroke.
He said, the way even, he said, accept ceremonial beaded crown.
He even qualified it.
Ceremonial.
Yeah, ceremonial. He said, well, they don't even go, they don't pass through the rituals of becoming king. And one big question is this. He raised it, and I've always raised it. You are introduced as high chief, and you are called Oba. And Oba must have a kingdom.
Definitely.
Which kingdom do
Are
those
they
kings
governing?
govern? Let that be something we think about.
Okay, let's leave that to the imaginations of the listeners.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, moving away from that. Okay, in case you're just tuning in, it's from the Dailies on Solutions 93.9 FM, and we are taking a look at some of those major stories on today's national dailies. Okay, let's take a look at this. We can't afford new electricity tariff. Universities tell Discos.
Well, they say they can't afford it. What's the meaning of that?
There were speculations that each student will be billed about 80,000 naira as electric power bill.
That was the Committee of Vice Chancellors.
Committee of Vice Chancellors.
You see, some of these things, universities, what is the purpose of a university?
When has it even become the duty or the responsibility of the students to pay? Because we passed through universities before at one time or the other, and I never saw that in one of the bills I had to pay as a student. So when has it become the responsibility of a student to now pay?
In UCH, they called it power. They now, when people revolted, they now started calling it utility. They pay utility. If you spend 1 week in UCH, you pay for utility.
As a patient.
In fact, they were calling it diesel.
As a patient.
Yes. They were calling it diesel. People now revolted. Say, what nonsense is that? We're going to be paying for diesel in this place. Then they change the name and call it utility. Now, you see, the thing that worries me about these things is beyond the issue of money. What is the purpose of these tertiary institutions, universities? You are to think, you understand, creative solutions to the challenges of society. That is, and there is I've worked in university environment, tertiary education, in administration, and there's always this conversation. Look, what are research findings? How are they applicable to society? You know the usual response every time? Industry is not, taking up our research output. I say if your research outputs are relevant, you go you see, they will sit down and expect industry to come. But if I have a good product, when manufacturing companies, when they produce their products, what do? Don't they have marketing? Aggressive marketing. You have seen aggressive marketing. How marketing has evolved. They went from packet, they went to sachet, they went to smaller packets. Even from smaller packets, they went to sachet. Aggressive marketing. So if you have research findings that is applicable, it is only UI that now has such a unit that markets its product. I mean, research product. You can't just sit down. Times have changed. And then the heads of those universities and other tertiary institutions, when the search for the heads are done, they must be people who have capacity or what we call entrepreneurial spirit. It is beyond spending money now. You must generate. It is not all those. I worked with somebody that I can proudly say, everywhere, the two tertiary institutions where he worked, the man was not just thinking of spending money. Creatively, within months that he got anywhere, he was creating. But I'm not surprised. He did management accounting, so maybe some of these things he understands. And of course, he's an entrepreneur himself. We got to one particular university. Within 8 months, they were ready to export. They were ready to export, even to earn foreign exchange for the university. So we need creative thinkers, not just people who are going to be sitting down there and with a knife.
So academic qualification shouldn't be considered enough to be the vice chancellor.
Leading universities globally. Look at their funding. You see, there should have been a plan, but in this country, we don't have plans anymore. We have yearly budgets. If there's a plan, transition from being it's growth now. A baby, an infant, we will breastfeed. When it gets to a certain, you will start introducing cereal. After cereal, you will start introducing muscles. You understand? You will still be feeding the baby. After some time, you will give the toddler. You will give the toddler a small spoon and put him on one seat and restrict the toddler so that he might spill 1/3 of it. But after some time, you will start saying, stop it. I should be sure that he wastes less food. After some time, we have no such plan. If such plans existed, are we sticking to it? A man will come today, he is vice chancellor. He will start his own plan. There must be strategic plans. I have seen universities in this southwest. The master plan of the university, they are usually 25 years. And I got into the university and I saw clusters of buildings. And I asked, how did it happen here? And I was told that one particular vice chancellor, because he wanted people to see what he was doing, they started clustering the structures towards the gate. And they were supposed to build away from what was the old original gate of the secondary school they started from. And I went to universities that were created 20 years after. Of course, private universities, they stuck to the master plan. And the place now looks like, what? So I don't... And strangely, the director of, fiscal planning, that was going to stand his ground and say, well, I'm not going to allow it. They just said the man, they just checked his file that they are not going on leave for 3 years. They just added his accumulated leave together and sent him
away on leave. So that it will give him the opportunity to do
the man was on leave for 4 years. So
interesting.
And there was a governing council. You understand? We just, even if there are plans, universities that are supposed to, you go to universities, you feel it. Go to universities now, you are even confused.
Okay, let's talk about security issue here. On the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, there is this one saying, Nigeria's boundaries with Francophone countries responsible for persistent security challenges. DG Army Center.
Yeah. Are we just doing that? You see,
in what way are they affecting or influencing the insecurity issues we have in the country? Because we have boundaries with Francophone countries.
He didn't want to be specific. What he's actually saying is our northern borders, especially, and the Cameroon flank. Cameroon is restive. But the danger is actually from our northern borders.
He actually said something. Let me read. He said he argued that Niger Republic is one of the countries that border Nigeria.
They call it the axis of evil,
where the Boko Haram operates. And following the country's withdrawal from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, most of the terrorists there are beginning to move into Nigeria.
They call it the axis of evil, the Sahel region. And you know that is where all or 85% of the light weapons that came from Libya, the disintegration of Libya, came through. Sahel, you know Sahel, to East Africa, they had their own challenges. You know, El Shabaab and some other terror organizations, they were operating there. And you know we don't have borders per se. We don't have borders. Even the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, said it is only God that can guide our borders. Nigeria, 1 million square kilometers. And the president that was elected.
Why would the president say it's only God that can?
The man was speaking from his heart. That is what is deep inside of him. That is what he knows. That is what he thinks.
But should that be the case?
Well,
can an American president say that
was our president's location? He didn't think there was a solution. And in Nigeria, when you don't think there's a solution, when you are not thinking, it is when you are not thinking that you think that there's a solution. The thinking of an unthinking fellow locates him in there's no solution. And when there's no solution in Nigeria, we hand it over to God. God is our refuge.
But is that cluelessness on the part of
it is cluelessness. It is tragic cluelessness that a man that was elected and a general says that only God can guard our borders in 2023. When electronic surveillance, when I can see me sitting down here, when I can see any part of our borders as I'm sitting down here.
But as we speak at this moment, there are still some of our borders, a lot of our borders that are not being manned, that are so porous.
Even within our country, the one they call ungoverned, even in this Oyo state, ungoverned spaces, in this Oyo state, and nobody is doing anything. You see, I think they say there are policies, but are people implementing those policies? Are people thinking ahead? Are people thinking if necessary steps had been taken, there wouldn't have been a hiding. What does it? As I'm sitting here, there is no part of this country that I cannot see via, digital devices. Devices in my hand, I will see any part of this country. So now, ordinary, regular me. What about security agencies? What does it take? Of course.
Do we now say probably the security or maybe the defense sector of the country is being underfunded, at least for them to be able to purchase this gadgets we talked about?
The ones that are make no mistake about this. When you look at the budget of this country, security defense budget, you say, military is taking so much. But how much goes to overhead cost? And whatever is left for capital, I'm not even talking capital project, hardware. You understand? Hardware. Convert it into dollars. How much is it? Because all this equipment are bought in foreign exchange. So, how much are we investing? Look, our Navy, Nigeria's Navy, in spite of the extensive coast that we have, from Badagry, and of course the international water, the Atlantic that we have. Shagari bought one frigate in the early 80s. How many units of frigate? That's the highest, I believe, that we have, frigate that we have. How many, serviceable. And of course, that the Air Force is the big deal. The Air Force is the big deal. And of course, the Navy too. The Iraq War. The American Navy just located itself off the Gulf of Iraq. Iraq. And just delivered Tomahawk missiles, to knock down all the military command and everything before they moved in physically. So, our armed forces, look, God forbid, external aggression now.
Okay, as we wrap up the program this morning, Comrade AYODEJI, there's still fuel scarcity. What is really happening?
Fuel scarcity. I think it is
Filling stations are still under lock and key.
It is even looking
And
better.
I saw one.
Is it not looking better?
I don't know whether you saw this particular chart about oil-producing countries all over the world. And Nigeria, out of all these oil producers, it's only Nigeria that has no functional refinery.
It does not look deliberate. Doesn't it look deliberate?
I saw the chart. About over 26 countries of the world.
Does it? Okay, what is stopping us from having functional refineries? What is stopping us?
I don't see it as being deliberate. I see it as shameful,
So
embarrassing,
scandalous. What has stopped us? And the one that has been put together by an individual. They are making efforts to
strangulate him out of business.
I don't even want to call it business now. Providing services needed, required by
essential
Nigeria,
service
by Nigeria. And who are the people there? The regulators that have their own refineries.
Then we should say probably these cabals are bigger than the nation itself.
Let's wait and see. The president again, like other policies, has instructed.
Because if past administrations have not been able to tackle this issue, then when do we have...
You have a car. You buy a car, brand new. You know what is going to happen over a period of time, depending on your use. You understand? If you are someone that is traveling between Lagos and Kano on a weekly basis, you know the maintenance that is required for such. If you are running within the city, you know the kind of maintenance that is required. Even if it is brand new, you know after 4, 5, 6 years, you will start doing some major maintenance. You understand? You know, it's not something you don't know.
I mean, looking at the huge amount of money we spend on exporting this product for it to be refined abroad and bringing them back, and even the money that the government is claiming that they have been able to gain with the removal of subsidy, can't all these monies be channeled into reviving these refineries?
Look,
at least to put an end to this unnecessary fuel scarcity that how can we be oil producer and we are finding it hard to get this product?
I don't think
it doesn't add up at all.
It cannot add up, but for some people it adds up. The simple thing is this: we have decided to put. Can you imagine this? All of this in the days of our Adams, we have employed and we have entrusted Nigeria into the hands of harvesters of ruins.
Okay, Comrade AYODEJI, we'll continue from this tomorrow morning by the grace of God. We need to wrap up now because Solutions Clinic will be coming up in the next 3 minutes. Thank you very much, Comrade AYODEJI, for being
my pleasure always, my dear comrade brother.
Okay, from the Daily returns, same time tomorrow morning for a fresh edition of the program. My name is AYODEJI LAFENWA, wishing us a very fruitful Monday. Good morning once again.